2020. What a year.
What a year.
What a year.
Let's talk about it.
Oh my God.
I thought it was
That
great.
one was better. We'll get it next time.
Yeah.
Wait, this is like the last one we're recording of the year, is it? We'll get it next
We
year. It'll be
still
fine.
have another month.
Who knows what's going to
Yeah.
happen?
Yeah.
Yeah. 2020 is not going to be over when 2020 ends. That's for
exactly.
sure.
No, absolutely not.
It's gonna
We're not
linger
even
a little
going to
bit.
2021. We're doing 2020 part 2.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The
It's like
electric
what we
boogaloo.
talked about the first episode, I think, where it's on New Year's Eve. It's gonna instead of going to midnight, it's just gonna go 11:60.
Yeah.
And 11:61.
Yeah.
And 11. Yeah. And just
Gonna keep
2020
going.
is just gonna keep going.
Just going to keep going. On forever.
Does anyone have any of their own 2020 updates? I know I was at the theater last night at rehearsal for Pippin, and the power went out. And my director comes in to talk to us while we're in our dressing room, like using our phone flashlights. It was out for like 2 hours.
Wow.
And he comes in and was like, my conspiracy theory brain is scared that they're shutting down power in the entire city because Harris County is like super infected right now, and they're gonna bomb us to just wipe Harris County off the map.
What? That's awful.
That's what my director was like. My conspiracy theory brain is thinking that. Emmy says,
my.
"LOL." But yeah, so that's how our 2020 is going. What about y'all?
There is no news.
No news. There's a ghost that haunts my job.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
so I mean, I got a new job. I now work with Lindsey at an escape room, and
correction, you work under me.
Yeah, she's my boss. Actually, that's true. Sorry, ma'am. So unprofessional. But there is a ghost, and apparently, they saw in the security feed a figure standing outside of our front door, which is locked, and it's in a hallway in the mall.
Yeah.
And it was standing there at 1 a.m. for 32 minutes without moving. So,
and I'm extremely scared of it.
yeah, so now every time she's closing alone, I just go and hang out with her.
Hey, will you come sit with me?
Yep. It's been great.
Yeah.
We haven't been killed yet, so
Yeah, we're still alive, unfortunately. But
we'll let you know if it happens, but, you know, we're trucking along.
You'll know.
You'll know.
We won't be here.
It'll just be Andy's show
Yeah.
from now on.
We've had a lot of like ghost stories recently too, because even at Karina and I's house, like y'all were watching
Oh,
anime
yeah.
on the projector out in our living room, and like
That's
the
a
string
statement.
lights just turned on out of nowhere.
They're battery operated,
crazy.
and not only did one string light, but two separate
They turned on
ones
at the same
turned on
time.
at the same time, both controlled by different battery packs when the house was
And they
completely
shouldn't
dark.
have been on a timer either. The red lights don't have a timer.
Yeah.
Only the white string lights do on the other side of the room.
It was very scary. We were just like, hey, do we want to like leave this house? So we went and just got some food.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
yeah, it was scary.
Yeah.
a lot of stuff, weird stuff happening in 2020.
Yeah.
Even
I know
weirder.
last night I was driving, and I was like, sometimes when I'm driving, if I'm listening to a song and I get into the neighborhood, I want to time it to where I get home right as the song ends. So I'll take
too.
like
I
an
do that
extra
too.
turn around like a street. And I drove down this street in our neighborhood that I had never driven down before. And I got this like immediate sense of dread, and I was terrified. And then my car went cold, and I think it was the scariest I've been in a long time.
Ew.
And it was the soundtrack of that moment was "When You Were Young" by the Killers, which I think is really speaks to that moment.
So that's awful. Thanks for saying that.
Yeah. I hated that.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Cool.
was that your question for the day?
Oh no, my question of the day is like, what's your ideal notebook?
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Cool.
Hmm.
I don't really know about that one. I really only use like notebooks for school. I don't really use personal notebooks.
Or like journals or whatever, diaries,
I guess
something like that.
A sketchbook.
Yeah, I was just gonna say
Yeah.
that, like a nice like moleskin sketchbook. You know, those are really
See,
nice.
I
like
prefer
that.
That's
the ones.
valid.
Oh, I'm sorry, hit the mic. I prefer the ones that are like the 8x12 with like a funky design on the front. You know what I mean? Like right now, I have one with
Yeah, there
the
you go.
wave
Mm.
painting
Oh,
on it,
yeah.
and I really like that one.
I gotta say my favorite are probably also like the 8x12s, but I like the like fancy unlined ones you can get from like Barnes and Nobles that have the they're like leather bound, and they have like usually two covers that you open out, and then it has like a leather wrap around it, and it always has like a cool design on the
Oh
front. Like
yeah,
I
those
really
are
love
cool.
the like Celtic trees and stuff that you can get on those.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, I just like pretty notebooks. I don't like the ones with like the circle bindings though. They
I
have
like
to have like
spirals.
just the regular
Oh
device.
yeah.
Yeah, the spiral
See, I
notebooks I don't
like
like.
those because
I don't like
you
spirals.
can open them flat, which is nice, but that's really the
Mhm.
only like pro to
Uh,
them.
I
And
don't like
there's
them
Yeah.
because I'm left-handed, and when you open them, and I'm trying to like write, but the spiral is like digging right into my skin.
I see.
No, sort of thing.
It must
So
be hard being left-handed.
let's not. We're not gonna
Yeah,
tackle it
let's talk
today.
about that a little
No.
bit.
Yeah.
What's it
Let's
like
really
being
get into it.
left-handed in 2020?
Grow up.
Grow up, stop being
I
left-handed.
am living in a right-handed world, and it's you live in a world where they don't make any like left-handed scissors. Well,
Well,
they do, but
you
everybody
know-
has right-handed scissors.
You need to
and-
go.
San Francisco.
We need to take you to San Francisco because there's a whole store, the Left Emporium.
There's a left-handed store on Pier
Yeah.
39. It's very
It's great. I
cool.
would go there a
My
lot.
cousin is left-handed and he goes to there to get his like school supplies and stuff because he lived in San Francisco.
Yeah, I
So-
remember when I lived in California and like my family would go to Pier 39 all the time, and I would just walk in that store and just like start laughing. I would just make fun of the left-handed
It's literally
people.
so rude.
Laughing
That's
at
so
all the
rude.
lefty.
Yeah, I would just point and laugh.
We go through so much. Like, I'm gonna die before both of you because I'm left-handed. So
I'm
like,
gonna die before you because I'm diabetic. So
Anyway,
anyway,
Which one of
So-
us is gonna die first? Y'all have to show up to my funeral and make it like super like y'all gotta stand there in like sunglasses and black suits and just like stare.
we just stand
I'm
on
gonna
like
make it
either
as
side of her
creepy as
casket,
possible.
and we're
Yeah.
just kind of like
we're like
Exactly.
the
Y'all are
bodyguards.
like yeah.
Literal
Someone's gonna
bodyguards.
try and steal my body.
no.
All right. Well, that's so morbid to
I-
start an episode out with.
Yeah.
I really wanna fake my death, like really
Yeah.
quick, and then just like go
Well,
off the grid.
Now that you've
We'll
said
make it
that,
convincing too.
you can't because we're just gonna assume.
Yeah, well, if I'm actually dead, you'll know.
Well, if you
All right.
disappear under
Anyways.
mysterious circumstances, we'll
Yeah.
come look for you.
Thank you. I'll be
Yeah.
in like
Well,
Iceland.
you gotta let
Okay.
us know, and we can make it really convincing, like at your fake funeral.
Thank you. You guys would absolutely be in on
Yeah.
it. All right, guys. Well, welcome. So this is part 2 of our 2-part episode. We are interviewing some artists that we know. Today's episode is kind of basically we're kind of really diving into the idea of having like an arts degree and being able to take that and what you learned throughout getting your arts degree and being able to apply all of that stuff, all of those skills to other careers, other jobs. Today we have the president of our college, Dr. Riley, coming and talking to us today, kind of about how she's been able to take all of her experiences through being an artist, and being able to take them and apply them to what she is doing now.
So let's go ahead and take it away. Here's that interview.
All right. So we have a very special guest with us in the studio today. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name's Rebecca Riley, and I'm the president of Lone Star College Montgomery.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. So
Yeah.
we're kind of today wanting to talk about arts in general, especially how they have to do with college students and putting it into practice in like a practical day-to-day lifestyle. So first thing we want to just ask is just a little bit about your background, like where are you from, what are your passions, stuff like that.
Okay. I'm originally from Lubbock, Texas, and I went to school there all the way K-12 through my undergraduate degree at Texas Tech. And my undergrad degree I have a BFA in painting and art history with a minor in ceramics and another minor in drawing. And when I finished that, I stayed for a little while after finishing my bachelor's degree. I stayed in Lubbock for a little while, but then I ran away to the mountains of northern New Mexico to try to become a famous artist in Taos. And well, that was interesting. And so what I really ended up doing, I really did have my very first gallery show in Taos when I was living up there. at a gallery called Avant House, which is no longer there because most galleries don't last very long in the first place. But it was a great little space. So I had my first show there. But like most artists, I did all kinds of things to support my art habit, including waiting tables and tending bar and oh gosh, what else? Oh, I was skied on a ski patrol while I was there, and I was the city manager of a tiny little town called Eagle Nest, New Mexico, for a little while. And I ran a pottery shop for a while in the tiny little town of Eagle Nest, New Mexico. And all of those were wonderful adventures, but very, very difficult to make a living. And so I ended up coming back to Texas Tech to do my MFA. I had planned actually to go to the University of Wisconsin in printmaking, and just could not come up with the funds to do it, and didn't want to go into debt and all of that kind of stuff, because going into debt for education back then was kind of an anomaly. It's not like now where everybody does it, and I was deathly afraid of going into debt. So ended up back at Texas Tech and finished my MFA. And somewhere along in there, actually, while I was still in undergrad, I got to spend a year in Rio de Janeiro, going to the National School of Fine Arts in Rio. And that was a very life-changing experience. But anyway, came back, finished undergrad, spent some time in the mountains, came back, finished my MFA in printmaking and art history at Texas Tech. And then it was back to kind of, what everybody kind of expects to do when they finish an MFA is go to work at a university. You look for your college job, your college teaching job, or you try to make it as an artist. And I didn't really want a college teaching job. So it was back to the do whatever you can do to support your art habit lifestyle. So it was back to doing pretty much every kind of job you can imagine at that point, including um, waiting tables again. Let's see, I worked for an answering service for a while. I was a landscape laborer for a while. I was a church organist for like 30 years, and a collaborative pianist for orchestras and vocalists for about 30 years. And let's see. Well, at a certain point, I moved to South Texas to a little town called Wharton, which is southwest of here, down Highway 59, southwest of here. And once I moved there, I was the principal of a parochial school, taught kindergarten. That was my most favorite job, actually, of all the weird jobs I've had. That was really a kind of a favorite job. The little kids were just so incredible. I had no idea they were such individuals at that age. And I learned that from working with kindergartners. So, again, it was just do what you can do to keep the studio open and the studio working. So I did that. And so I would work about half time. And by that time I had a couple of kids. And so I was raising kids and working about half time. And the rest of the time I spent in the studio. And so I worked during that time period. I worked on developing relationships with galleries around the country. And at the peak of all that, I had about 5 different galleries that were handling my work. One in the Northeast, one in Chicago, one in Taos, one in Dallas, and I had one in Lubbock. So I was trying to just keep producing work to try to have at least one or two person shows a year, and then the rest of it gallery group shows, and just keeping work in galleries. So I did that really until we moved to Houston, and I got my first teaching job as an adjunct professor of art over at the Kingwood campus of Lone Star. And then when I think it was about a year or two later, I got the full-time position teaching art at Kingwood. And that was my first full-time job of my entire life. I think I was about, gosh, I was probably 40, 41, something like
That's
that.
very comforting to hear.
So,
As an artist
Yeah,
who
it
doesn't
is.
have a full-time job.
You know, people think that your career track as an artist has to be this predictable thing, you know, that everybody that's very conventional. And if you're an artist, not very much about your life is going to be very conventional at all.
No.
It's very true.
that's the goal.
You know, and you pick up every kind of skill you can imagine supporting your art habit, and that's not a bad thing. You know, when people ask me, how did you, you know, what jobs or what skills did you learn to become the president of a college? I go, well, let's see, landscaping, bartending, waiting tables, playing the piano, painting pictures, teaching, you know. Oh, I forgot, I was also a dental assistant for a while.
A woman of many talents. Jeez.
There's a long list. Life drawing model. Let's see. What else?
I'm taking notes.
Yeah,
just in case I ever need jobs.
writing all this stuff down.
Yeah, so that's my circuitous route to finally ending up at Lone Star. And I taught full time for, I guess, probably about 5 years, and then applied for the dean job. At the time, we didn't have deans; we had associate deans. So I applied for that job, and got that job, and I think I got that job in like June, and then in the fall of that year, they eliminated that position. So we had to they created the dean position, but there weren't as many dean positions as there were associate dean positions. So everybody had to compete with everybody else for those jobs. But anyway, I ended up getting one of the dean positions. And then eventually I realized that if I wanted to keep going as far as administration was concerned, which I kind of enjoyed the administration stuff, not kind of, I really enjoyed it. I knew I'd have to go back to school again and get a doctoral degree. So I did that I went back to school, I think in 2005, 4 or 5, I can't remember which. And anyway, I graduated with my doctoral degree from Sam Houston State while I was working full time as a dean in 2007.
What did you get your doctorates in?
My doctoral degree is in higher education leadership, but my dissertation was on intercultural competence.
That's very cool that you've done so many things. And I also think it kind of goes to show, like, there's a misconception that, like, you have to be doing, like, what you love as your career only to, like, be happy in that way, you know?
Yeah.
When it's like, you can do all these other things and still be doing your art and still, like, having a passion for that, you know?
Well, yes, absolutely. And I will not pretend that now, since I became president, I won't pretend that I still have the kind of artistic practice that I had before. I think the biggest decline in that area started when I started working on my doctoral degree, because obviously, if you're taking Friday nights off only, you're probably not going in the studio on Friday nights. No, you are having beers and margaritas. And seeing your family. Oh, yes, family. I forgot about the family. I waited till my kids were, actually, my daughter was a senior in high school when I started that, but I waited till they were basically gone to do that, because I knew it was going to be crazy like that. But yeah, so I can't say that my artistic practice at this point is anything like it was before that. Um, but I will say that making art is like riding a bicycle. You don't forget how to do it. Um, if you have a continuous practice, where you're really devoting time to it every week, or even every day, um, you obviously have a different relationship with your materials and with your subject matter than you do if you are, the the so-called Sunday painter, the person who sort of is a hobbyist and drops in on it every now and then. Because I mean, being a real artist is not just about making pretty stuff or painting pretty pictures. It really is about pushing the envelope on ideas and on what you think you understand about yourself and about the world. And those kinds of things require some fairly deep thinking and some time um, to challenge yourself and to be challenged by others and to allow yourself to um, think past your comfort zone. In particular, think past your comfort zone. And so I think that kind of practice, that kind of artistic practice requires some consistency and some continuity. So I would say my artistic practice now is more of a relief valve than it is a true practice. But I look forward to the time when, I mean, that's what I plan to do in retirement. When I retire from being a president, is go back in the studio full time because the I miss that part of my intellectual life and my artistic life. There's no question but what being an artist is awesome preparation for pretty much anything you want to be, because it is, after all, a problem solving practice. But but I can't say that you can be guaranteed that you're going to maintain a real robust practice and work full time all the time. You might have
Absolutely.
to just support your art habit working part time, or whatever you're able to do, you just do it.
Yeah.
Hmm. And kind of speaking on that, how have you you mentioned like art kind of sets you up for whatever you want to do. How have you felt like you personally used your artistic background in your career, like as a dean and as the president of the college?
So I actually have a whole presentation that I sometimes do on leadership and art, or leadership as an artist. And I think the primary thing that artistic practice does for you, that prepares you for a position of leadership in particular, is that, again, if you're a real practicing artist, you must get comfortable with working without a net, and traveling without a map. Because if in a real artistic practice, you are going places that you don't know where you're going to end up. You know, what's the fun of it if you already know what's going to happen, right? Um, and to the extent that you become predictable or formulaic as an artist, meaning you know where all the maps are and you know where all the roads go, that's the extent to which you've sort of compromised your practice, in my opinion. You're not really pushing the envelope anymore, as far as I'm concerned. And so that, to me, is the number one thing that an artistic practice does in terms of preparing somebody for life, for leadership. And that is just the ability to be out of your comfort zone, to not know the answers to the questions that are being asked all the time, to not know the answers to problems until you have to dig into them.
Awesome. I love that. Do you have any advice for students that are going into the arts?
Where should I start? Let's see.
They need the most of it for
Yeah,
sure.
for
Out of
sure.
any other students.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so, and quite honestly, I don't think I can competently speak to what it's like to start out as an artist now. We are so far removed from the artistic practice that assumes that you're going to make things that are going to be sold through a gallery structure, and for which you will get paid, sometimes with a fight, but for which because galleries are not known for being real good businesses. But we're so far removed from that structure now. There is still very much a gallery structure in the art world, but there are so many more options for getting your work out there now, for how to produce work, for what work actually is now. It's no longer necessarily even an object anymore. So there's all kinds of possibilities out there right now. So I guess my best piece of advice would not be about how to run your business or how to get yourself set up to start out, because I don't know what that's like now. I think my best piece of advice would simply be around the idea that if you're really going to pursue the life of an artist, you have to be willing to balance it with other things. You have to be willing to push your limits constantly, be comfortable with being uncomfortable. You and I guess I would just say don't ever apologize for being an artist, you know? People to this day, people still kind of make fun of the artistic types, right? You know, we're the crazy people, of course, you know, and thank God.
I agree.
Yeah.
Thank God these people are here, you know. But I would say my best advice is you have to be persistent. You have to pursue every possible avenue you can for getting your work out there, including the unconventional ones as well as the conventional ones. You have to just keep at it, and you should listen to criticism to the extent that it helps you improve your practice, but not to the extent that you allow it to define who you are as an artist. Because boy, that's a crippling thing. When you I mean, that's one of the most the unique things about working as an artist, whether it's a visual artist or a performing artist, is you put yourself out there, and then people throw rocks at you, you know, or they throw words at you, and you have to learn how to deal with that. So I guess another little piece of advice is figure out how you're going to handle the criticism when it comes, you know?
Yeah. I have kind of a question about, I guess in your own personal experience, because it's different for everybody, but if you're in a creative rut and you just, like, even if you are producing stuff, but you just hate it, like, how do you get yourself out of that?
Out of a creative rut?
Yeah.
So for me, and I think it's different for every person. Some people need to just go outside, you know, just go outside, get away from everything, go out in nature and remove yourself from your usual set of stimuli. For other people, you just need to take some other kind of break. I think sometimes you can help yourself out of a creative rut by going and exposing yourself to artists that you haven't seen before. You know, somebody that makes you think, oh, wow, why didn't I think of that? You know? And then for me, I think one of the other ways that I sometimes stimulate myself out of a creative rut is reading. And because most of my ideas start with words and start with ideas as opposed to starting with images. The images come, but they almost always start with an idea instead of an image.
Wow. Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Yeah, I love that.
I have a
Well,
question.
looking at other people's work is really good too, because first of all, whatever you can think of that you can do as an artist, someone else has thought of it. So you don't
Yeah.
stop worrying about being original.
Yeah.
You are original, so don't worry about whether you are or not. But looking at other people's work can be really inspiring and stimulating.
For sure. Yeah, I think that's what helps me out a lot as an artist
Me
too.
too.
For sure. But I have a question kind of about when you realized that it was art that you wanted to pursue, or it was art that you wanted to kind of like do with your life. I know there's a lot of stigma that comes with being an art student. I think no matter what kind of art that you are going for, and you run into these people that you meet, and they're like, "Oh, well, what are you studying?" And you go, I'm an art student, and they just kind of give you that look like, oh, oh, honey,
She's going through a phase.
yeah, yeah. Or even like people often like run
And they
into
go,
parents.
so what are you going to do for a living?
Yeah, exactly.
People often run into parents who are just like maybe also not as supportive as they could be when you decide to be an art student. So did you ever run into this, like, and how did you handle it?
So I knew from the time I was really young that I was either going to go into art, music, or medicine. Go figure. I don't know what that means, but I was always interested in all three of those things. And when I was growing up, women were very much discouraged from going into medicine still at that time. That really didn't stop me, except that I realized that I would rather spend my time drawing and painting than I would than I wanted to study organic chemistry. That just, when I got to that part, it was like, okay, we're done here. And
Yeah.
I was capable. It's just like, okay, this is not making my heart leap up. Whereas drawing and painting does, and music does. So I kept the music and the art both, and the visual art going both basically from the time I was 4 or 5 years old on. And my parents were real, it was interesting because I had the kind of parents who always told us, you can be whatever you want to be when you grow up. You can do it. At the same time, I think they always wondered how the hell we were going to make a living, but to be fair, I was never forced into like getting a teaching certificate or something like that that's the usual thing that people try to push their kids into doing if they're going to art school is at least get your teaching certificate.
Yep.
Oh yeah, because really what I want to do is teach 500 kids a day how to paint. So I didn't, I did not run into it so much at home as I did, I was certainly aware of the criticism or the skepticism, let's say, right? Skepticism is a better word for it, out in the real world, And when I was going to undergraduate school, two very opposing experiences, two very opposite experiences that I think shaped my experience as an art student and eventually my experience as an artist. And one was that when I went to art school, there were still in my survey of art history textbook, freshman art, that everybody has to take. You're still taking the same classes. Um, I think there were two women in the entire textbook. You know, that big 4-inch thick Jansen or Gardner history of art book. I think there were two women in there. There's a few more now, but it's still, you can still count them on two hands. Um, and the art world was very much a male world. Um, when I was in undergraduate school, and then actually just graduating and getting into graduate school, was when the Guerrilla Girls started. Have y'all heard of the Guerrilla
I
Girls?
have not.
I have not.
Okay, so you got to go look up at the Guerrilla Girls for a they're still active, by the way. They were a group of women artists who wore gorilla masks, and started exposing the inequities of the art world from a sexist point of view. In other words, so they published, for example, in Art in America, they got a full page ad and cited the numbers of this is the number of practicing women artists in the United States in 1975, and here are the number that are actually in museum collections.
Wow.
And, we're talking about 10 versus 10,000, right?
Mhm.
And so, so there was that kind of, yeah, go to art school, gain your skills, do what you got to do, but don't worry your pretty little head about, too much real stuff in the world, and certainly don't think that you're going to be in the collection of the Museum of Fine Arts Houston anytime soon. That ain't happening. So there was that on the one hand, but when I was 19, I had the opportunity to go to Rio de Janeiro for a year and study. And so I went down there and got enrolled in the National School of Fine Arts. And while everybody up here in the United States was in that machismo abstract expressionist mode that they were in back then, we're talking about the 70s here. In Brazil, if you were going to art school, you were training for a career in which you were going to make a living as an artist, and you were considered to be an integral part of society. And in fact, Brazilians think you can't live without art.
Wow.
So they were all into, like, you have to have poetry. Poetry makes you feel alive. You have to have painting. Painting makes you feel alive. It's part of what makes life sweet. So there was a completely different expectation of what the life of an artist was going to be, even the life of a woman artist. And we're talking Latin America here, where women to this day still have different rights than we have up here. So those very opposing experiences were, I think, two things that really shaped my experience as an artist, and who I thought I was going to be as an artist. So, as you might expect, you come out of that kind of experience empowered on the one hand, and having lowered your expectations on the other hand.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think it's not unusual even now to come out of something like art school with those kinds of opposing sentiments, or opposing expectations for your career, because you don't know if you're going to make it. You don't know if your stuff's going to be any good yet.
Mhm.
But you got to do it. And at least now, I mean, I'll just tell you, the art world, the structure of the art world is still very male dominated, but it's certainly better than it was back then. And the saving grace is you don't have to rely on the stupid gallery structure or the museum structure anymore to define your career. We are long past that because of the internet.
Yeah, I will say, even in my experience of taking like audiovisual classes, even at Lone Star, it is like 90%
All
men.
men.
Yeah. And it's very disheartening, but it's also encouraging to see the women who are in those classes working 3-4 times as hard and trying to prove
Isn't that
themselves.
the way it is?
Yeah. Yep.
Genuinely.
But it is, we're fighting for ourselves for sure.
Yeah, I think the only class I'm in that has like the same amount of girls as boys is like project management. Like all my other classes, there's like one other girl in them.
Wow. I'm kind of surprised at that. Huh. So the good news is that overall, the number, this is not actually good news. This is horrible news, but overall, the number of women going to college and graduating from college with bachelor's degrees now exceeds the number of men who go to college and get bachelor's degrees now. It's been that way for about, gosh, I can't remember what the first year was, but it's been that way for at least 10 or 15 years, which is a disturbing trend because we don't really want that to be how things are. But on the other hand, I think it will mean that in your lifetime, for sure, the world of work and the power structure of the world of work will change dramatically from what it is right now with old white men still running everything.
Right. Yeah.
I certainly hope so.
No offense to the old white men.
Yeah.
I like, but look around at, look at how our own Congress is changing and how everybody's still remarking so much about how, oh, wow, look how many women are getting elected to Congress. Why should that be a surprise? Come on.
Yeah.
It's 2021 nearly,
Yeah, it's crazy that like 50% of the population is not represented in our own government.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
To the extent that it should be.
Not even close. Right.
Even now, we're just about to have our first female vice president, which is crazy to me.
Absolutely insane.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's changing. It's changing.
Yeah.
It is changing. And your generation, more than any generation ever before, has the opportunity as artists or as whatever of shaping your own careers, because you don't have to play as much of the structural game in the arts, especially, as has existed in the past. So that's a really good thing.
Yeah.
It makes you have to be entrepreneurial, and it makes you have to learn a little something about business, and how to run your own affairs. But that's also very empowering. Don't ever shy away from that part of it. That's empowering.
Yeah. That's very good
I
advice.
have to manage a $33 million budget now. So, don't shy away from the numbers.
We'll work on that.
I'll do my best.
Yeah. So do you have just any closing thoughts, any last minute pieces of wisdom you'd like to share with everyone?
I don't know if I have any last pieces of wisdom. I would say, if you're in the arts, you're going to work hard. If you're going to do much, you're going to work hard. And it's a strange world. The art world is a strange world, even still. But it's the world. I think it's a world of working for your lifetime that affords you probably the most intellectual freedom of pretty much anything that you could do. The freedom to define yourself and who you are more than almost anything else you could do. And the opportunity to create things or ideas that literally burrow themselves into other people's minds and hearts and make things happen. So, wow, how much fun is that?
Yeah. Wow.
Love that. Well, Thank you so much for agreeing to let us interview you. I feel like it's definitely
Sure.
been very enlightening.
Yeah, it has for
Yes.
sure.
Well, anytime. I always tell, whenever I get to do something like this, I always tell the students, I'm starved for contact with students since I don't get to teach anymore. So anytime.
Well, we might have you
I
back for
usually
part 2.
invite people over to my office to visit, but we're not doing that today, But
Mhm.
when we can do that again, come over and visit.
Let's do
I
it.
We will,
absolutely
for
will.
sure.
Yeah. Have a little chat.
Yes. Well, thank you so
Good.
much for
Thank
joining
you.
us.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for that interview. That was very enlightening. I think it was very cool to hear about like how art gives you like those leadership skills and like all that sort of stuff because I don't know, art is looked down upon a lot and but it's worth so much to have those skills and be able to be uncomfortable. Um, so yeah,
Yeah,
that was super
absolutely.
cool.
I think also it's kind of interesting to see how even though she is the president of the college and she has like a doctorate degree and everything like that, one thing that she really focused on was how you just because you have like a certain job doesn't mean that you're not an artist anymore. Like you
Right.
will always be an artist if you no matter what you're doing, which I think is very encouraging.
Yeah, 100%.
Agreed. Yeah. But anyways, let's do some plugs. So you can find us on Instagram at LSC-M Arts, where you can keep up to date on the podcast as well as what the theater's doing and the art students are doing, Pottery Club, all of that sort of stuff. Super cool. As well as Lone Star College Montgomery Visual and Performing Arts on YouTube and Facebook to find a link to the podcast and the podcast itself. So make sure you check all those things out. Yeah. Anyways, y'all have anything to add?
Drink some water.
Yep, wear a mask.
It goes over your
Over
nose.
your nose.
Yes.
It goes over your nose. All right, 3-part harmony bye on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Bye.